Welcome to the Building Materials Sales and Marketing Podcast, presented by Mark Mitchell, a sales and marketing consultant who specializes in helping building materials companies overcome difficult sales problems. Mark is the author of the book Building Materials Channel Marketing and a frequent speaker at industry events.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Building Materials Sales and Marketing Podcast. This is Mark Mitchell from Wizard Strategy. And today we're going to continue on our process where we've been a series of things I've been doing with Mark Allen Roberts about the different types of salespeople. And what got me most interested and intrigued about this, where Mark identified for me, there's a new kind of salesperson. I've always thought about there's the hunter and there's the farmer. But Mark pointed out that there's the new person, the fisherman. If you haven't heard it, you should go back and check, I think, 2 podcasts ago where we talk about the fisherman. And the fisherman has been created now because of how we do digital marketing. It's a different job than the hunter or farmer. And then last week we covered the hunter. And today we're going to cover the farmer. And we're also going to touch upon another character that we don't really like that much called the babysitter. Mark, welcome again. Glad you can join me to help our audience understand better the farmer, how to manage a farmer, and if you are a farmer, how to be a better farmer.
Thanks, Mark. Farmers are incredibly valuable to most organizations, and yet most people say they only want hunters. And I look forward to discussing why you need farmers and the role of a farmer. And if they're not trained and not equipped, then really all they are is a babysitter.
Yes, that's excellent. I think that many people think a salesman's a salesman.
Right.
But they primarily think of them as a hunter.
Right.
And so that's fine if you're going out, like if I'm selling cars, I'm probably just hunting, right? But when you're in the building materials business, you're looking for new customers, but you also need to pay attention to your current customers. It is more expensive to get a new customer and more difficult than it is to maintain a current customer and grow that current customer. And so that's what I see the farmer can do a great job of, is keeping the current customer happy, loyal, and growing through them. Is that how you see it, Mark?
Yeah, the farmer plays a critical role in our success. As you indicated, hunters, they're out there, they're trying to get new business. They're just wired for that quest. But there takes a whole different skill set to be a farmer. You've got a client in the relationship, you've started selling them, they've built a trust with you, they already believe you're competent. But what surprises most people, particularly manufacturers, is really what little percent of the overall wallet of that customer that you have. So that's where a farmer really plays a critical role, because once you're in the door, and again, people buy based on competence and trust. So you've already overcome those, hopefully, by giving the customer a great experience. But now the farmer is really good at building relationships, and they create these like relationship matrices where it's not just the buyer, it's other people in the organization. And through those relationships, they build what I call relationship capital. There's an author, Ed Wallace, who talks about relationship capital in one of his books. And over time, they build that trust. So when other people want to grow, want to work on a new project, you get that unfair advantage. The other thing that a farmer's really good at, or needs to be good at, are upselling, cross-selling, and leveraging data to grow your business. Before we had data, they had to do it by walking around. I mean, they literally would walk around in the warehouse. Oh, interesting. Why is there 6 skids of my competitor's product? What do I got to do to earn that? Today, with really sophisticated ERP systems, they could go into a large account, say, look, here's where we're at with the products you're buying. Did you know that the other 6 clients that I sell that are like you in the same industry also buy these 5 products in this order? And I think we're both missing out on an opportunity for growth.
Yes. I find that the other thing the farmer can do is to, let's say, keep the conversation off of price.
Yes.
Where if you don't have anything else to say, then the competition will come in and offer a lower price. And many times customers will carry two lines simply to have a little leverage with not have one company, feel that they have everything so they can take them for granted or maybe overcharge them. So you have to have a competitive price, but a good farmer can make that buyer look beyond the price and say, wow, this company has my back. I'm willing to pay a little more for them because there's no problems when I'm dealing with this company. I'm buying from, 200 different suppliers, and I've got like a number of them that take time for me to stay on top of because they're problems. The good farmer can make sure that that you're one of the top preferred suppliers to that buyer. And so I think that's a often misunderstood part of what a farmer can do. The other thing a farmer can do is has good eyes and ears, and the farmer is attuned to how is that customer changing. You may sit and think like, oh, well, they're a builder. They build houses. They've been building them for 20 years. They do everything the same, or they're a lumber dealer or whatever they are. It's easy to see more how they're not moving than it is to see how they are constantly changing. And so when the farmer is in there and on top of things and paying attention, they're starting to see, oh, I'm noticing that they're more concerned about improving turns, or they're trying to grow their online business, or they want to go after a new type of customer. How can we help them do that? What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. And lately, I've been seeing a pretty big push towards sustainability. During the pandemic, we also saw a huge push towards cash flow. So where a farmer can come in, and another skill that we assess for when looking for farmers is business acumen. And what we're looking for really is a business consultant who's masquerading as a salesperson.
That's a great one. I like that.
Well, they come in, but let's say the big focus for your customer right now that you're trying to gain share of wallet is cash flow. And they're buying from, and again, I've worked on these scenarios and I know this works. You've got X amount of vendors. Let's say it's 15 vendors all serving the same similar products. But let's say you're growing to become one of the largest. I think you can put together a pretty impressive economic model that says, look, if you give me these other SKUs, you can buy less of each. It'll help you hit your freight requirements and improve the flow of material through your building. That is not a discussion a lot of salespeople today, unfortunately, are prepared to make because they haven't been taught value selling and they haven't been taught business acumen. But more importantly, like you indicated, what buyers really want and what they've always wanted for years is somebody that listens to them, somebody that understands how they make money. And then the big one is somebody that comes in here and brings me insights. They're not sharing confidential things, obviously. They often have NDAs with some of their large accounts. But they come in and say, we've just had some really good success with this. Maybe it's kitting. Maybe it's, whatever we can do to target some of the challenges. Like right now in the building industry, labor is a challenge, right? So what can we do creatively together to help you overcome the challenge of labor? Now, that is a business consultant. That's a farmer. That's somebody that's constantly striving to earn more business.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there, Mark. I'm quite used to going on sales calls with building material companies and walking in and, let's say, presenting a new product or a different product, like
Right.
change to us. And almost always the customer is nodding their head up and down saying, oh, that is better than what we're using today. I could see how that would benefit us. And then they'll pause and say, I'm overworked and understaffed.
Yep.
And while this is a good idea and better than what we're doing today, nobody's asking me for this. Okay. My boss isn't asking me to find a better widget. I haven't had customers walk in and say, where's this widget? And so while I think this would be a good change, I'm going to say this is maybe, number 32 on my to-do list. Okay. So check back, maybe in 6 months.
Right.
And so what I find a farmer is good at doing is knowing what are the top 3 to 5 pain points or issues that customer has. And on the surface, it may seem like it has nothing to do with your product. but you know that this customer has an issue with labor shortages, okay? And so their priority is, how do we solve this labor problem? Maybe they have an issue with a lower cost competitor. Maybe they have an issue of trying to grow more online. Maybe they're going to focus now on selling, having deeper inventory, shallower inventory. They always have something, and it's their top, 3 to 5 things that keeps that person. That's really where they're focused. And so when you look and say, a good farmer can say, our product can help solve one of those 3 to 5. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you just moved from number 32 on the list. You just moved way up. And too many people, they just focus on the benefit of this product to maybe your customer's customer. Okay. Right. But they don't look at it from the customer standpoint and how they're going to look better, because it changing to a new product, even changing direct from one nail supplier to another nail supplier, is a much bigger deal than most companies recognize.
Very much so.
They have to go into their computer systems and change all this stuff. They got to maybe change pricing. They got to change signage, the website. All of these things have to be changed. So they may look and say, "Oh, that's a good thing," but man, there's 16 things I'm going to have to do if I pull the trigger on this, and where am I getting that time? But if it's changing to you would help solve this labor issue in some fashion. It's probably not the total solution, but it's a step in that direction. They're going to be much more like, okay, helps solve the labor thing. I can go to the management meeting and say, hey, I found a new supplier for this, or a different supplier, or we're going to give more business to this other company, because they're doing that's going to help solve this labor issue, right? Exactly. It's a win-win-win, and I think, farmers are good farmers are able to do those kinds of things.
And they're listening, right? They're connected to so many people in the organization. I've seen some farmers grow businesses just by having really good connections with quality and safety. They learn about a particular problem that maybe the buyer's not even aware of, but it's critical throughout the senior leadership challenge, right?
Yes.
I had one client that, again, I'm not going to mention their name, but they had a challenge with forklifts. For whatever reason, they had the real old forklifts in their warehouse. The warehouse, the forklifts were not in great repair. And I was walking through the warehouse one day and I saw 4 guys lifting a skid. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, we can't count on our skids, and we got to get these 4 guys. They're the strongest people in my plant. And I says, well, would you like me to start staging your orders only 1 high per skid? I mean, why are we risking, people's backs? And they're like, well, could you do that? And I says, well, yeah, my skid cost me X. It's going to take me a little bit extra to make it for you for that. But I mean, just to save you on the risk of,
oh my gosh.
Comp. One workers' comp issue could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And
yes,
it's something the buyer never even knew they were doing.
No.
But there's those little gems that flow throughout the business. Like we said, cash flow, right? Some people have minimum orders. You got to order X amount from me, to get to a freight requirement.
Right.
But all of a sudden, if you send that over 100 products instead of 50, you're actually buying less of each. You're turning your inventory before the bill comes due. It's a beautiful thing. So yes. What a really good farmer does is it almost feels like an extension of their company. A really good farmer is also powerful as far as going back to your company with insights. Right now, my clients are really struggling with labor. I don't have all the answers, but what do you guys think? And then they go back with ideas and insights, but they really do a great job of connecting that insight to how it impacts the customer's bottom line.
Yes.
I see quite a few manufacturers doing drop ships right now. Because people let their inventory run low. If you're a farmer right now, the one question you should be asking, because the Harvard article just said 45% of buyers are experiencing supply chain interruptions, is, are any of your other vendors letting you down right now? And how can I just back them up? You're not asking for the business, you're asking to back them up. But if you can back them up when they can't ship, high probability once you start and you get in the system, you're going to stay in the system.
Yes. Now, I think that at least what I hear in building materials that, it's much higher than 45%.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think one of the challenges to me is there's many farmers out there today that were able to ship in 2 weeks and now it's 8, or they were able to ship in 6 and now it's 12 or worse. And so the thing the farmer is critical to have to be doing today is to be that open line of communication to the customer.
Right.
Even if it's bad news, as long as it's accurate news. And I see more and more companies setting themselves up to be thrown out the door as soon as competitors have capacity.
Correct.
It's like every time we have a recession or something comes along, it's a new experience and we don't quite know how to deal with it. And every one is different than the last, the 2000, I think I've been through like 4 recessions and everyone affected business differently. So we tend to think about, okay, COVID means there has to be a recession. And I remember what 2009 was like. And then, what do you mean? There's not going to be a recession in building materials? But we shut down for a couple of months. So now we can't keep up with the demand. And so I've seen so many companies literally saying, we don't know when we can fulfill your order. Okay. And then say, we think, we hope, we whatever. And so the customer can't plan on that. And then even a surprisingly large manufacturer dealing with a good sized builder, will call the purchasing person and say, hey, good news, a truck left the factory for you today. Oh, good. Can you tell me what's on the truck? No, I don't know. Nobody knows what's on the truck. Okay, so I got to wait for 2 days to the truck to get to my dealer. And then it's like Christmas morning, we're going to open it up and see what's in there. And then we can decide which houses we can finish, right? So that's, it's like, are you kidding me? And so this builder is so upset that I know that as soon as things get, back to where somebody has products to sell, they're going to be looking for somebody different, which to me is so one, no matter how bad the situation is, the farmer can keep that customer loyal by being the person that makes sure that accurate information is there. And if they've got a question and the customer knows you're doing everything you can, because a number of the other people are just not, they're not dealing with this well. And so, and that's, I don't know what you think, Mark, if this is but if I were the hunter today, I'd be saying, okay, who are those dream customers that I've always wanted, the big elephants and that take a long time to sell? I can't sell them today, but I could start talking to them today about how we're helping our customers get through this tough time. And I could start to lay some seeds in their mind about when this comes around. Gee, maybe my competitor that's supplying them, maybe they aren't doing such a good job of just keeping them informed.
Well, and you brought this to light, I think, in a prior conversation. And now, you know how when you go out and look at a car, you want a red car, and then all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere, right?
Right.
After our discussion about this topic, it seems to come up in every conversation I'm having.
Yes.
And when you look at the analytics, like when you assess salespeople for different roles,
yes,
one of the things that a farmer really needs to have, obviously strong communication skills, but they need to have what we call, they don't need a strong will to be liked as much as they need to be respected.
Ooh.
Where if they have a really high need to be liked, they don't tell you the bad news. They don't even warn you that something didn't ship. So really, that's more of a babysitter, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're not having those hard conversations. They're afraid to ask really good questions like, hey, you said you need it by Friday. What's going on?
Yeah.
The other one that farmers are all, I think, should be asking about now is, how critical is it that somebody ships an order 100% complete? I mean, again, when you work with contractors, where they lose money is when they have to go back to a job site when the order didn't ship complete. And now you're, again, talking like a business person. We ship 100% complete, 98% of our orders ship complete. Okay, we might not be shipping in 2 weeks, but we ship in 3 weeks, 100% complete.
Right.
Now that has a lot of dollar value to it if you know how to unpack it.
Well, and it's going to have more and more dollar value. In the past, the customer would come in and say, what's your price? And then what's this other guy's price, right? And he wasn't factoring in any of those things. He wasn't thinking about lost time on the job site, inefficient use of his labor. Now, particularly contractors to me are becoming much smarter business people. And they're looking and saying, okay, yes, this company cost 5% more, but I know it's going to be there on time and the order will be complete. And with this other company that's a little less expensive, maybe they're at 85% chance, right? Well, that 15% now, that can cost me a lot of money. And so they're looking at things they never looked at in the past. It's going to become much more important. Why don't we just touch for a minute about the dreaded babysitter, okay? This little character. I got my little babysitter hat on here, see? So, the babysitter, I don't know if the type is on the right place there, but anyway, I got this, babysitter hat here for us. And, and to me, the babysitter, one, it could be I think two things, Mark. It could be the wrong person, certainly. Yeah. Okay. But also I find many times that you could have a great person, but the company does not empower them.
Right.
Or the company does not keep them informed, does not empower them to make decisions. Everything has to be run up the tree and, 3 days later you get an answer or something. So the babysitter, my definition, I like share yours, but the babysitter is somebody, they just have a job, which is to keep the customer happy. And so that leads to, the customer wants a lower price. Oh, what are we going to do there? Okay, I just shuffle papers, do things like that. I'm just babysitting. I'm not growing the customer. I'm letting the customer decide our future. I'm not in charge of our future with this customer. And it's really, a kind of a waste of effort. It's like you probably could handle that customer over online or something, or with somebody on the phone, as opposed to, because I see lots of babysitters who have their company car and travel around and go see customers and all that. And that's a big expense, but they're not growing the customer like a good farmer would be. What's your thoughts on the babysitter?
Well, the first thing I look for is a babysitter is 100% transactional, which is what you indicated. You can look, again, the power of data really comes into play when we start looking at our teams and where they're strong and where they're weak. If you look at your data of your key accounts and you're not seeing any new products, you're not seeing any category growth, your share of wallet not only is not increasing, it probably might be even decreasing. You've got a babysitter. All a babysitter's doing is, like you said, they're managing the relationship, which there's value in, but they're not really in sales. You can accommodate great customer service with a customer service department. I've come into some really fantastic customer service people that would take much better care of an account than a babysitter. What's really hard about a babysitter is, as the CEO, CFO, you think they're out there trying to grow the business, place new products, support new materials, new POP. You think they're out there doing all these things that a salesperson does. And typically you find out, months or years later that none of those things are doing.
Yes. And, the other one, they always, to me, have an excuse.
Yep.
Like, we lost that account. That darn account, they're just mean people, or they're just unreasonable, or they're just whatever, right? It's never their fault. It's always the account's fault. And is there a way, Mark, just here I'm a sales manager, and so I want to, or the CEO or whatever, and I'm looking at, I want to kind of look at my salespeople. And I've had this view that they're all the same. They're all salespeople. And so to look down and say, okay, here's how I would do it, but I'm want to hear your expert opinion, but, I'd look and say, okay, you have, this territory, these accounts, this what, okay? Is it growing? Okay. So in other words, is our current customers growing with this? Are you adding any new customers? And I look and say, gee, so if we got somebody that's not adding new customers and the current customers aren't growing, you probably got a babysitter. Would that
probably
be just a top line view of it?
Or even worse, the babysitters running around the plant talking about how great they're doing, they're getting high fives, that sales are up 20%, but the market's up 60%.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that I have 10 salespeople around, and so that'd be how I might identify the babysitter. And I'm not going to take this like, well, my territory is different or my customers are harder or, that's bullshit. And then I'd look and say, is there somebody that's growing current customers but isn't adding new ones? They're probably, a farmer. And then I'd maybe look at somebody who adds new customers, but maybe we're losing customer business a little faster than in the other territories. Now, maybe we have a hunter. Just trying to, I know you have much more sophisticated tools to measure those things, but would that be, if I were just trying to do it myself, how to do it?
If you're trying to do it yourself, the data has all the answers you're looking for if you know what to ask.
Yeah.
And you already indicated new product sales, new customer sales. And then if you monitor customer satisfaction, that's another indication, right?
Right.
A quick way to find a babysitter is the first person to complain, but has no accountability, as you indicated. That's why accountability is so critical when we do our assessments.
Yeah.
If something goes bump in the night, I was always taught if it's going to be, it's up to me. Whereas a babysitter is going to have every excuse in the book, the economy, the competition, the other rep was the only rep invited to the buyer's wedding. I mean, I've heard it all, right? Very quickly, if that resonates with you, you might have a babysitter. And here's the really scary one. Working with large sales firms, about 20% of your people shouldn't even be in sales. And those are typically the babysitters. And if I ask like a CEO, who's your best salesperson? Who do you want me to help train the rest of your people to be like? And this is a true story. I want them to all be like Mike. Mike crushes it. Really? Oh, yeah. Look at the numbers Mike's bringing in. Mike represents 30% of my revenue. I need more Mikes. But when we dig into Mike didn't open any of the accounts he's managing today. Mike just happens to have some really big accounts. The accounts haven't picked up any new products in 18 months. They're some of the least profitable accounts we have because Mike caves on price. The data will tell us you don't want more Mikes. But you look at Barb. Barb went into a brand new territory, crushed it, opened up all these new people. Now their volume isn't nearly what Mike's is, but really, what behavior do you want? And the real scary thing is, when I do the analysis, a lot of times, manufacturers, distributors are paying a hunter rate for a babysitter.
Yeah, right. Well, and yeah, that's a good point about that. But there's also the thing that, right now, and we're going to continue to see this more and more mergers and acquisitions.
Absolutely.
And so you can have a babysitter with a company that then gets acquired, and you have a good chance of losing that customer when they move into the new one. Where if you are known as an indispensable part of their business, you got a much better chance of making the transition as the new company acquires them. So that's another really scary thing. So I think, one would be to if I were just offering a little advice to the leader, one would be to know the different strengths of your people and make sure they're in the right jobs. And anybody that's a babysitter, find a way to replace them as soon as possible, because you may see to your one story, like Mike, they may be delivering a volume, but they're actually hurting you. And you can, in today's world, to afford to have an underperforming person like that. It also sends a signal to your other people what you will accept. Right. Like what, because the other people know if Mike is full of crap, they know, maybe better than you do. And if they go, oh, okay, well, he's got the boss bamboozled, so how smart can the boss be? And then, so they'll reward just for this kind of behavior. I don't really have to bust my butt and go out and land those new accounts. And if that new tough account, the only measure is how big they are, not like how profitable are, not what their future looks like, and things like that. And so I think that's a good point. Now back to the farmer, Mark. So how do you best manage a farmer?
Well, the farmer, I mean, again, the way I do it is I have every key account. I segment the accounts to A, B, and C accounts, and I put really good farmers on A and B accounts. I work with the salesperson and make sales objectives by customer, but I let the salesperson tell me how they're going to hit that number. Oh, so you're going to do it with capturing more share on these products. You're going to place the following new products that these people should be buying. And typically that plan comes out much greater than what their goal needs to be for that account. But if they're not capable of doing that, then that's a sign that there's some training required. I did a whole series of blog posts about 5 or 6 years ago on how to manage accounts, and people can access them on my No Smoke and Mirrors blog. But it takes you through, do some SWOT analysis, how to determine how to create account development plans. And then you need to execute. And all of it requires asking great questions and having data. And again, farmers are tremendously valuable and typically can, really move the needle for you if they're trained and if they have the right tools. But figure 50% of salespeople have never been trained.
You bring up another point with a farmer. Companies today just, I don't know, it's like they keep having more people get involved in other people's business.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, somebody decides, well, I'm sorry, the salespeople can no longer make that decision. This is the policy. And so you have to do this and do this and do this, and I would be at least once a year sitting down with all the salespeople, but especially the farmers, and say, what could we better empower you to do? Right. If we allowed you to do certain things, what would enable you to perform better, deliver better customer experience? What would those be? Okay. Yeah. And then see what, you're comfortable allowing them to have. But more and more, I see the company drawing in control and not trusting the sales and customer service people to make the right decision.
But that's not what you see at market leading companies. That's
no.
Like the engagement that I have next week, I'm doing a 3-day strategy session with a pretty large team. And we asked everybody on the team, what are the things that you think we should keep doing, start doing, and stop doing, right?
Great.
Now, what we had fun with, though, is we asked the same questions of their largest customers.
Oh, wow.
There's
nice.
a pretty big disparity on, ever since the pandemic, the shifts that your customers have made and adapted to and what they require that they probably missed because they weren't out there face to face and seeing them. Right?
Yes.
So we asked their customers very specific questions. And I can't wait to do the retreat because, again, we're going to share that data. We're going to share the voice of the salespeople, and then we're going to make them work. They're going to have some skin in the game. We're breaking off into tables.
Nice.
We're going to identify what are we going to keep doing, because everybody's doing something right, or you wouldn't be in business, right?
Right. Yes. That's great.
What do people value that we're doing today that maybe we don't even know how valuable it is?
Yes.
What are we doing that people hate? My favorite story is one of my manufacturers was putting out a newsletter, and the way they distributed the newsletter filled their customers' emails every month, right? The data file, and then nobody was reading it, but it was like a nuisance. So as soon as we learned that, we deleted it. We stopped doing it. We made it a hyperlink on the website instead of the way we were distributing it. But again, it all starts with, if you want one secret to grow, is be customer focused. And just like your company's changed because of the pandemic, I promise you your customers have changed.
Oh.
And if you're not on top of that change, what if your competitor is?
Right. Well, and then if you are ahead of your competitor, what a competitive advantage that is. That you're better meeting the way the customer wants to be dealt with. Well, Mark, this has been great. I've really enjoyed doing this series with you, where we started out with the fisherman, and then we covered the hunter, and today the farmer and the dreaded babysitter. To our listeners, I invite you to go back if you haven't heard the other two. And then Mark and I are putting this together in to a white paper that we'll have available soon that just kind of goes through all of these different categories to help you either as a salesperson, be a better salesperson, and then as a leader to be a better leader so that your company is more successful as you grow. So Mark, thanks again. Tell everybody once again how they can get in contact with you.
Again, I really enjoy this series, Mark. And I think, the spirit behind what we're going to do on that white paper of if they want to do this themselves, they're going to be able to do it, right?
Yes.
We're going to give them the clues, the symptoms to look for, even the data to look for. But if you want to get a hold of me, I'm kind of an old school guy. Even in my training, I don't teach anything very sophisticated. I teach stuff that works. My cell number is 330-413-8552. My blog, if you want to find me, is just Google Fix Sales Problems. I'm number one in the world. And then my email is markrobertsnosmoke@gmail.com. What's that all about? Well, my blog is called No Smoke and Mirrors, and that's what I talk about, building authentic relationships of trust with your customers. So again, Mark, thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to this being published. And we're getting a lot of people making comments on our last couple. So I'm sure the Babysitter might have triggered a few people to, start asking a couple of questions they should have been asking.
Yes. Well, this is, as always, this has been great. Mark, I'm so glad that we got to meet each other a few years ago, just because I you're now my kind of go-to guy when I have a question about sales, just because I just like your approach and the tools that you have that can actually help people evaluate and do things. And I'll have Mark's contact information in the link to the podcast, or if you see it on YouTube, I'll have both of those on there. And I want to thank everybody again. Hope this has been giving you some good food for thought about how to continue to improve the performance of yourself or your building material sales company. So once again, if there's a subject that you'd like me to cover, please let me know, and we'll try and get it handled for you. So have a great week until the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for listening to this podcast from Mark Mitchell on building materials, sales, and marketing. We hope he gave you some fresh perspectives on how to grow your sales, and will listen to future episodes.